going on? It's here coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends. How you guys doing? Welcome to the video. Today we're going to talk about some rare champions, and this is one of my favorite videos that I've recorded in a while because it's rare champions that are the most end game viable. Why am I even making a video like this? And it really contrasts with previous rare spotlight or feature or ranking videos that we put out in the past, because normally, and you know, a couple of these champions will be on the list, but it's Coldheart, it's Apothecary. Spoiler, they're gonna be on the list because they're really good champions even in the end game. But the other 16 or so champions, at least of the majority of them, are gonna be a little bit more niche, but because of features like Doom Tower, and I'm sure plenty of other things that will be added to the game over the next year or two, we're now seeing room, and I'm working on this right now, Secret Room 12. I kind of disassembled my old team, so I gotta put it all back together again. But we're seeing the hardest content in all of Raid Shadow Legends is rares only. So rare magic champions only. Same thing with Secret Room, what is it, 9, I believe? Secret Room 9, right, is rare attack champions only. This is considered to be the most difficult Doom Tower, most difficult end game content in the entire game. So even if you're not worried about these secret rooms right now, eventually you might want to hold on to some of the best champions to use in these areas in the game, because I know me, I really don't like being in the position that I'm in right now where I actually need a bunch of rares, right? Who wants to pull shards rooting for certain rare champions?
Do I really need to answer that?
I guess they're easier to get, but, you know, some of these champions I've been looking for a while, and, you know, just the odds. There's a lot of rare champions out there, and I have not gotten them. So maybe if you get these champions, you can at least hold them in your vault, even if you're not worried about that sort of content right now. So let's start with one of the best ones out there, really on the short list of the best champions for the end game, and it's Judge. And this is one of those guys, right? You should hold on to Judge, guys. He has a damage increase by 10% for each debuff on the target on his A1, but really his A2. Attack all enemies 2 times on a 3-turn cooldown, fills turn meter by 10% for each critical hit. So, I don't need to tell you guys, Judge in a stun set is going to be absolutely tremendous for a lot of your teams. He's going to have a 3-turn AoE in a stun set, and those are his only 2 active abilities with turn meter fill, so he'll be going even more. His base speed is really good as well. He also has a passive. With each hit, has a 30% chance of placing decreased accuracy, speed, attack, or decreased defense for 1 turn. So not a bad passive, can act as kind of a debuffer as well. In each hit, keep in mind, he's hitting 2 times on that A2 on Blade Dance. Judge, very, very good in the end game. Speaking of end game, guys, one of the best champions out there for end game is one of the starting champions, and it's Elhain. Elhain is being used, multiple Elhains, 3 Elhains, 4 Elhains. In stun sets, right? Because you have an AoE here on the A2, you have an AoE on the A3 times 2, so one of the best stun champions in stun is going to be huge, as you can already see here. So looking for rares that have multiple AoEs in their kit, especially on 3-turn cooldowns, Elhain is going to be top notch for the end game, and again, she's very fast. You can deck her out in your best DPS gear and get tremendous results with her. Now, of course, Kael also belongs on the list, because Kael is good in the early, in the mid, and in the end game. He has an AoE and just deals an overall a good amount of damage on his A1 and his A3 with the poisons. And again, he has a turn meter fill, excuse me, on his A2 as well, similar to Judge. So getting, you know, more turns more often, more AoE attacks more often from Kael. Next is going to be a champion that I've actually done a full guide on, and I put him in, what did I put him in? It was kind of a unique build. I'm totally forgetting. Was it a Frostbite set or whatever the heck that is from the Frostbiter? Had a lot of fun with that, but really Graybeard is very good for crowd control. He has a provoke, not only a provoke, but a 70% chance at a provoke on his A1, on his A2, an AoE with a freeze on a 3-turn cooldown, right? So 40% chance of a freeze on his A2, again, on a 3-turn cooldown, has a shield and counterattack on himself, which is going to lead to more provokes. Also has defense in dungeons, not going to help help you out necessarily in the end game because you're not really running Graybeard at level 25 dungeons, but still, he's an overall very good champion, and he's actually campaign farmable, so very easy to get your hands on. Now, the next one is not the Secret Room 9 and 12 that I just saw you on this rotation, but there's a few other very difficult rare rooms on other Doom Tower rotations. None as difficult as these two, but Kurzad Deepheart is going to be very, very good for you guys. A Void Affinity rare champion with 2 strong AoE attacks. He has turn meter fill here on his A2, and on his A3, he has increased accuracy on all allies, decreased defense on an AoE, again on a 3-turn cooldown. So Kurzad, it helps me out a lot on the other ones that you can use Void rares, and overall, just a very, very good champion. Increased accuracy can help you out in a lot of different areas, even in the end game. Certainly great for faction wars as well. Next up, let's go back to one of the old school, obvious champions out there, guys. None other than Apothecary. Apothecary, you can use him everywhere from Doom Tower secret rooms to clan boss to really any dungeon in the game. He's got the defense in dungeons. He's got the 2-turn heal, can be critical as well, increased speed, turn meter fill. He's got it all for a rare champion. Certainly very good, and good base stats too for Apothecary. A lot of defense, a lot of speed, a decent amount of HP. Just overall a great champion. 3-time hitter too on his A1. Let's get the obvious out of the way. Coldheart, I'm not even going to spend too much time on Coldheart. Hard-hitting AoE here on the A2 and a full turn meter depletion, along with a ton of damage based on enemy max HP on the A3, and a 4-time hitter on her A1. So great for Fire Knight, endgame, Spider, endgame, Doom Tower Secret Rooms, endgame. She is an endgame beast, probably #1, at least in my mind, the best rare champion in the game still. Let's cover another kind of an obvious, I guess a little bit more obvious. You guys know that I'm a massive fan of Reliquary Tender. Listen, you've got a rare Reviver, also with a full cleanse on a 3-turn cooldown, also with continuous heal and decreased attack on the A1. What more could you ask for in a support champion? Honorable mention here, I mentioned him a few times before. He's not on my list today, but I really like Gear Grinder as well. A decent amount of HP, a decent revival and a heal as well. I've been using him on Doom Tower in the end game on one of my main teams, but didn't include him on the list because I feel like he is replaceable a little bit depending on the team that you have. All right, next up is going to be, let's go to Knights Revenant, excuse me, plural. Executioner, we're seeing him used a lot in the end game as well on a lot of the teams, which we'll look at in just a minute here. We have a stun on the A1, on the A2, an AoE 3-turn cooldown with a decreased speed. Granted, the weak version of decreased speed, but an AoE, decreased turn meter, and decreased speed on the same ability on a 3-turn cooldown. That's going to be so useful for all of these secret rooms where we have to stun, we have to crowd control. Also has increased defense and counterattack on himself, leading to more stuns off of this A1. And again, a 30% chance on a stun on an A1 is not bad for a rare champion. So Executioner, we're seeing used quite a bit as well. Renegade, still one of the 2 gods, I guess 3 now. We have Countess Lix. There's a few more that kind of reset cooldowns of all ally skills, but she is still one of the OGs along with Prince Kymar as well. We see her on a lot of endgame kind of speed runs all over the game. She has Void Affinity. You can even use her at level 50, but definitely an endgame rare champion. Next up is going to be a few barbarians that I use a lot, right? Starting with Warmaiden. She's still the best debuffer out of all the rare champions in the game. Dagger has decreased defense on a 3-turn cooldown on an AoE, but it's only a 75% land rate. Granted, she's Void, so you don't have to worry about negative affinity matchups, but still give me Warmaiden. She's dealing a little bit more damage, and it's 100% land rate, provided again that, you know, not the affinity matchup, not a weak hit, etc. So Warmaiden, very good champion. You know, we see her as the main debuffer used in the end game. Soulbound Bowyer. She is one of my faves, guys. She's an AoE on her A1, so put her in a stun set or put her in a retaliation set. Very good with that decently hard-hitting A1, but really her A2 and her A3 are great too. Hard-hitting A2, ignore 75% enemy defense. On the A3, 75, make it 100% chance when booked of fully depleting the target's turn meter on a 4-turn cooldown, a la Coldheart, right? Minus all the damage. But still, she's bringing a lot to the table. I use her sometimes just on the AoE, just in a stun set, right? AoE every turn. Next up is going to be Berserker, another 2-time AoE champion right here on the A3. Will ignore 20% of each target's defense. The bummer is it's on a 4-turn cooldown. We love that to be on a 3-turn cooldown, but a lot of people use Berserker again in a stun set. He has turn meter fill as well. If the attack is critical on the A1, keep him going more often, but most importantly, also grant extra turn on the A2. Most importantly, he has good multipliers, so he can actually deal some damage. He's used mainly as a DPS in those Doom Tower secret rooms. Let's go to Undead Horde for a second here, guys. It is Banshee. Dude, love me some Banshee, guys. AoE on the A1 with decreased defense. AoE on the A2 with a chance at removing a buff from each target. Now, the cool thing about this is, guys, this is an AoE 65% chance of removal, excuse me, on a 2-turn cooldown. So she can just go AoE, 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 AoE. Well, she could just do that on the A1 too, but the AoE on the A2 is great for removing buffs as well. She has 2 times that random with block active skills. You can use that as kind of a CC ability on the A3, or you can just put her in a stun and just keep landing the AoEs on the A1, decrease defense, or the A2. So Banshee, definitely a very good, one of the best stun set champions in the game. Hey, listen, guys, I included my boy Fellhound, excuse me. Doomscreech, I was looking at. I was eyeing him up, but I don't think he's as viable endgame as other increased defense champions. Fellhound, though, man, he's the best campaign farmer in the game. I've said it so many times here, so I'm not going to belabor the point, but just A1, 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 A1. You can also put him in a stun set. He also has Reflect for Fire Knight on the A2, block damage on the A3. So I think that Fellhound's just an incredible champion. He is definitely used by a bunch of endgame players, including yours truly, as a campaign farmer, if nothing else. So Fellhound definitely deserves to be on the list. Just a few more here, guys. I still have to give it to Bellower, man. How could I not include him on the list? Because an AoE on every single ability, right? I mean, he can deal damage, he can be built as kind of a control champion in a stun set, a debuffer with all the debuffs that he brings to the table. It's the weak version of these debuffs. That does not mean he's a trash champion or a bad debuffer, right? I'd rather have a weak version than have no versions of decreased attack, decreased defense, decreased speed, and he also has block active skills also in his kit on his A1. So Bellower definitely deserves to be in the conversation. And who would I be? What kind of a scumbag would I be if I didn't include Harrier? Harrier! Harrier! Come on, man! Harrier! Is that 4 Harriers, dude? Is that 4 Harriers? Harrier! Is another freaking Harrier. Harrier! Just joking, he's the trashiest champion. Don't waste your time on that scumbag of a champion. Sorry, guys, got a little out of control there. Athel! Athel, the 3rd starting champion. No offense to Galek, he's not an awful champion, but I don't think he's as endgame viable as the other 3. I love Athel because she has a triple hitter on her A1 with the big version of Weaken. Great against bosses. You have almost a guaranteed Weaken. A guaranteed 100% chance. Strong version on the A1 of a rare champion. That's really rare to find, no pun intended. And then we have an AoE on the A2, extra chance at a crit, and then we have granting an extra turn on the A3. Athel is so good, man. Elhain and Athel, I feel like you can make a case they're better in the end game than Kael, and most people say just go with Kael. Kael's amazing. Kael's so much better in every single way in the game. I feel like Kael is great in the early and the mid game with all those poisons, but I actually feel like Elhain, especially in Athel, might be able to get you a little bit more bang for your buck in the end game, but either way, it's kind of close. Next up is going to be back to Barbarians, guys, and I have to give a shout out to Sentinel. Sentinel is a very niche champion. I think he's the 18th rare that we've spoken about today. He's niche, but he's great if you don't have, I don't know, an Angar, excuse me, or a, what's his face, the guy that I freaking use. Why am I drawing a War Chief? If you don't have one of these 100% provokers, Sentinel can be a great provoker to use against the Magma Dragon, even in the end game. His damage, again, is based off attack and defense, a little awkward there. He has a heal on his passive at the start of his turn. The heal can be critical, kind of cool, but really it's about this A1. He has a, 85% chance? Yes, of landing a provoke if the attack is critical on his A1. So again, Force Affinity going into usually Magic Affinity against the Magma Dragon. You can land those provokes very consistently on his A1. Keep him provoked, the Magma Dragon, the entire battle, and then victory will be yours. Just have Ninja and Syl support and heal the team, whatever, right? And keep them healed up, and then the rest of the team will get the job done. Sentinel's got you covered as one of the more reliable provoke champions in the game because he has it at just such a high clip on his A1. Guys, there is the list of all the rare champions I think are the most viable in the end game. Who did I leave off? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and as always, take care, guys.